You know, I'm always telling Shapur how he has such a fun job. He gets to drive these fancy cars and he goes to these exotic locations as well. You've been doing a lot of that lately, Shapur, but we're at the half-year mark when it comes to luxury cars. I want to start off by talking about these luxury hatchbacks because we've seen a few launches in recent times as well. But you know, the favorites have always been there. There has been the Beetle, there has been the Mini Cooper. Now the Mini is out with the new one. Tell me what you make of it.
They've done a fantastic job with the new Mini. The old Mini was a bit too hardcore, was a bit too hard, especially the car in India. And this car is a bit more rounded. Of course, it has that great retro style. And BMW and Mini, of course, they're the same company. They get that spot on. So you just look at the car, it's just gorgeous. It's so cute and it's aggressive at the same time. So they get that male-female balance right. So, you know, women want it, men want it, everybody wants it. And the new Cooper S drives so well. It's just unbelievable. It's probably all the sports car you need in a city. So, you know, it performs the luxury function beautifully, it performs the sport function fantastically, and it's a great combination. Now, obviously, the car is imported, so the price is a bit steep, but you know, it's a luxury product, so you got to pay for it.
And you hit it spot on. You said that it's about the retro feeling, and I think that's where the peg is. So when you talk about that retro feel, who do you think does it best? Because the Beetle's there, the Mini is there, and now I know Fiat is also getting into it.
Yeah, in fact, the Beetle's coming back to India. They're getting the new Beetle, and you know, like we were saying, male-female balance. The earlier new old Beetle, the one that they did, the retro one, that was considered to be too much of a girl's car.
Right.
It was too soft around the edges. It was, you know, it had a flower vase, and as a result, you only saw women driving the car. So you know, it polarized the audience, and of course, Volkswagen said, we want a car that you know men can buy and women can buy. So the new car is a bit harder. It's a bit sportier, and they hope it appeals to both.
The Fiat Abarth. Now tell us more about that.
Yeah, Abarth was this really nutty, sort of crazy guy who would take the biggest engine he could find and stuff it into these really small Fiats. That created a great brand of performance cars, you know, mini performance cars. In fact, they're very similar to the Mini in their sort of positioning and what they do. And Fiat is carrying on this legacy really well. We've got a good Fiat 595 competition, which we've driven. We've been driving the car in Bombay, and I can't tell you, it's such a hoot to drive. It's just an insane little car. It's a compact sports car. So, you know, the kind of feel you get from that, and, you know, it's nano size, but it's got a huge 180 horsepower engine. So, can you imagine?
We can expect it in the year.
Oh, for sure.
So, when you talk about performance cars, Shapur, it seems like BMW is trying to up their game. They have been quiet for a while, but now i8, M3, M4, it's all out.
In the space of 3 or 4 months, they've introduced some of their finest cars, and I think Indian customers are really, you know, waking up and taking notice of them again. The BMW is the performance car luxury brand, you know, amongst all of them. The i8 today is taking it to another level. It's not just performance, it's not just the mind-blowing looks, it's also the fact that it's a future-ready car. You know, it comes with a 3-cylinder engine. Can you imagine a supercar with a 3-cylinder engine? But it's also hybrid, it's also got that half-electric powertrain, so it gets the performance from both. And of course, it's the whole package, so it gives you luxury, performance, sport, and it's green. So that's what they're pushing for the future.
It's in a category of its own.
They have been so forward in their thinking, and they've actually gone ahead and launched this car, which is really green, really sporty at the same time, and of course, crazy to look at, you know.
Well, but competition must be biting at its heels now. Already we've seen the RS6 Avant being announced, but then Avant is in another category because we are talking about...
No, Avant is totally another category. In fact, I was chatting with Joe King, the head of Audi, and he says that in this year, they expect to sell around 200 of their RS models. Now, RS is like M for BMW or AMG for Mercedes, and they are the performance cars. So he's shooting to do around 200 of those cars, which is quite a good number, you know.
Right.
If you consider they're mostly a crore plus or 2 crores, you know.
Sure.
And of course, this RS7, that's another new game Audi is playing. They're going to see if there's a market for estate cars in India, and what they're doing is very smart. They're launching the sexiest one first, you know. Sure. Now the RS6 is it's hardly practical. I mean, if you put luggage in there, by the time you come to the end of your journey, it's going to be in pieces, unless you like really tie it down. So, you know, but what they're trying to do is they're going to bring this car, then they're going to bring another slightly off-roadish version called the All-Road.
Right.
That's going to come next. And then if there's a good demand, they're going to launch their estate cars in India. Of course, they call them Avants, but they're the most successful estates in the world today. They do it the best job in Europe.
Right.
And so the A4 and A6, they're looking at both those cars seriously. If these two do well, if the attitude of Indian customers changes towards estates, because we look at it as only practical.
Right.
You know.
Yes.
It looks quite like a dabba from the back, of course.
Correct.
That's the sort of, you know, the attitude we have.
Pure performance, when you talk about them,
Yeah.
you talk about the Maseratis and the Ferraris of the world. So
Yeah.
I know that you've been to Europe to drive the latest Maserati that can be expected in India soon, but tell us more about that experience.
That's another set of luxury brands which are going to make a re-entry into India. I mean, they had a sort of bad run with a couple of their distributors, and they weren't too happy with the job they were doing. And so Ferrari will be back soon with Navneet Motors in Bombay, and Maserati will be back also, but with another dealer. So I've just been driving the new Ghibli, which is their 4-door version, and man, it's hit the spot. You know, it's that ideal combination of, you know, relaxed but sporty. You know, it's difficult to, you know, pin down, but they've got it right with this car. And the car looks absolutely gorgeous. I think it's probably the best 4-door car I've seen.
Right. So then, is that where the action is going to be? Because
That's
obviously
where it's going to move for the next few months or years. You'll have a lot of action from Ferrari, a lot from Maserati. They're going to bring the entire range, and that's going to be really fun.
You know, some people out there would say about time for Ferrari because they have been lagging behind to such a great extent. And my sense is that it's because of their network, the dealership, and they've had lots of issues on that front. But now you're seeing them bring their act together and with the kind of cars and models.
Yeah, let's be fair. This is the greatest brand in the world. I mean, Ferrari.
Sure.
So I'm sure they're going to do well in the short term and the long term. Of course, the pricing is a lot. You know, it's going to be expensive.
My question is about SUVs, because
Yeah.
we've seen so much talk around that's the space where everything is going to concentrate.
You're going to get a whole raft of new SUVs from luxury manufacturers who've never had them before, like Lamborghini. They're going to do probably the fastest SUV in the world.
Right.
It's going to be called the Urus, and you know, we're talking Lamborghini levels of performance.
Right.
Then there's Bentley, who's going to do an SUV.
Sure.
And that's of course another level of luxury and sport, you know, combined. And of course Maserati is doing an SUV. It's called the Levante, and they've shown the car recently. It looks attractive, and it will be in India in the future.
You're talking at the upper end of the spectrum. If you were to bring it down a few notches, if you talk about the Volvo XC90 or the Mercedes GLC.
Yeah, these are the two most anticipated SUVs in that luxury SUV space, you know, around 75, 80 lakhs upwards to around a crore. And right now, the one that's the most anticipated there is the new XC90. Now, Volvo have done a great job on the new styling. It really looks beautiful. It's nice and smooth and futuristic. And the cabin is unbelievable. It's like you got a big iPad as a center console.
Right.
And the kind of reactions people have had to this car, there's genuinely something new and exciting about it. So I think Volvo, also being the smallest of the luxury brands here, they're also pretty excited. Mercedes has had this big hole in their SUV range because they never had a right-hand drive version of the earlier car.
Sure.
So now when this new GLC comes in, you'll see, you know, a lot of pump up in their numbers. So if you see a lot of Mercedes executives walking around with a big smile on their face, you know why that is.
Looking at the kind of cars that have come out this year, I pause to wonder whether it's more about facelifts or new cars coming in, because already Q3 is out. We've seen the facelifted version, and there are many more that are going to be just facelifts, right?
Yeah, there's lots of facelifts coming. The luxury car industry understands better than anybody that the customer wants something that's fresh and new, and they plan the facelifts well in advance. And you know, every 2.5 or 3 years, life cycle is around 4 to 5 years today, and every 2 years you have your facelifts slotting in there, coming on time with German precision, and these guys do a great job of keeping it fresh and current. The Q3 is actually a really beautiful car. It's looking much nicer now, and I think Audi already happy with the sales, and they're going to be pleasantly surprised because there's clearly a lot of demand. We can tell from the kind of traffic on our website that there's clearly a lot of demand for this car.
Where is the action really going to be in the various categories that we've
I think
talked
the
about?
action will remain in the two big sedans and the two SUV ranges that we see, which is like the C class or the 3 Series and the 5 Series and the E class or the Audi A6. So it'll be in those two areas. That's where the action will concentrate for saloons or sedans, as we call it, and you'll have the SUVs also getting, you know, similar sort of traction.
Well, within all the cars that we are talking about in the luxury space right now, there must be one that you're really looking forward to driving in India in the next 6 months or so. Which one would that be?
Obviously, the Ferrari.
Yes?
Yeah, I think it's a great day when Ferrari comes back to India. I think they make some of the finest sports cars in the world, and right now Ferrari is right at the top of their game. So every car they make is like touched with gold and almost an instant classic, and I think